Hi guys. So this I did this last time too, but basically there's no like topic that I'm presenting on today. Um it's just 'cause I guess there's like a lot of stuff going on this week, but I will be talking about like primes and my experience with that next week. So you can come to that if you want. And yeah, so this session is just gonna be like Q&A, and any questions that you guys have can be put into the chat. Um, this is not like a math discussion, really. It's like basically just um, I can answer any questions or like give advice and stuff on pretty much questions that you have about math or STEM in general. So it's not like doing problems. Um, yeah. And sometimes I have like presentations where I talk about something like a camp or competitions and stuff that I've done, but I don't have one of those prepared for today. So it obviously, sorry, one second. Yeah, so it'll definitely depend on your AMC score, of course, because that's what's added together with the AME. And also like whether you're aiming for JMO or AMO. But based on like past years, I guess, for JMO, the cutoff is usually like around 200, like low-ish 200s, like 210 maybe to 220. Um, Sometimes up to 230-ish. But yeah, so I think that a good score to aim for would probably be like around 10. Because I think at that point, like you have what you need to get like a good enough score on the AMC as well, so that when they are added up together, you'll get to the cutoff or above it. And then if you want to be safe, like I think 11 is pretty much like good, unless you mess up the AMC a little bit. But for AMO, usually like AMC 12 is a little bit harder than AMC 10, and also it has like lower cutoffs to get into AME. So for that one, I think the USMO cutoff is like usually in the 230s. There's been like some fluctuations in the past few years because of COVID and stuff, but probably honestly like around the same, like 11-ish. Yeah. I think that like rather than trying to get a specific like score, it's good to focus on like getting through the first maybe 8 to 10 problems and like being pretty sure that you can do most of them correctly, and then also learning to like experiment with the later ones and find out which ones you have a chance at solving. Mm, so for AMC scores, like DHR is pretty good, or actually that's like very good usually. But for AMC 10, I think like 120 is like usually what they say will get you into AME for sure. So like if you want to stand out more, maybe like 130s is like pretty good. And then for USIMO, or sorry, for AMC 10 or 12, sorry. Um, I think like 120s, 130s also. For Amy, I mean, I don't know if like getting a specific score is going to help you like that much if I don't know, like it's a pretty small range that you can get scores in, it's just like up to 15. So if you don't qualify for JMO or AMO, I think the most important thing is just to like show that you're improving every year. Even if it's like just by one problem each year, that's already like a pretty big improvement. Like it's 10 points in your combined score. Um, AME cutoffs for AMC 10, or I think for AMC 12, it's probably around like 90s-ish. And then for AMC 10, the cutoffs are usually like from 100 to 110, probably. Um, but there's like, I think there's a rule, or I don't know if it still applies, but like if you get at least 120, then you're guaranteed to get in. If for some reason, I don't know. Um, is getting a 9 or a 10 a good goal? Is that the question? I think that's like a pretty good goal, especially since you're like working towards improving your score. Like a 10 is usually like a very solid score. I don't think that like there's really a trend for which test of the Amy's, like Amy 1 or Amy 2, has more combo or geo because they try to randomize it and like distribute them relatively evenly. But I don't know, I think there also is like people have talked about if you feel ready for Amy 1, um, there's like some thinking that you can do into like the demographics for who takes each test. And personally, I think it's like usually just better to go with Amy 1 if you're feeling prepared that week. I don't know. Like there's definitely less people who take Amy 2, and that can kind of like skew the results and like how qualification for Olympiad plays out. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's like specific distributions that are different for the two tests. And for me, I started really basic or like kind of just for fun competitions in elementary school, but I got like more serious about it in maybe sixth grade-ish, um, with AMCs and stuff. But I started with just doing like math league and team competitions. Yeah. I don't really remember, but I think that like I well, I don't know if this is true, but I think I got either a 4 or a 6 the first time, but I don't know which one it was. And yeah, I've just, as I've said, like improved throughout the years, and that's something that I guess whatever you're applying to will look for. For AMCs, I don't really remember at all. Like the first time I qualified, I got 111 on both the A and the B, but I don't really know what I got before that. So, yeah, I think the first things that I did were like AOPS classes and books. I read, I think, the introduction to like blank books. I didn't read like word for word, obviously. I just kind of went through some of the chapters and like tried the problems and stuff. I think I also took pre-calculus, and then I also took intermediate algebra with AOPS, like their online classroom. Um, and then like early on, I went to Alpha Star a lot, which I think a lot of people go to. But yeah, I don't know if I did anything else. I think that's it. Yeah, I did pre-calculus, which is not super applicable in like the earlier math competitions, but the trig and I think they covered logarithms, maybe. That shows up in AMC 12 and then also AME. It's not like super necessary though. Yeah. So for AMCs, um, I think that like there's not really any tips that I have. It's just practice, and like as you get more comfortable with the problems, you will get faster. But I will say that for AMCs, you have very little time to go back and check your answers. So you should obviously try to like finish as many of the problems as you can, but also like as you're going through them, you should probably be careful and like try not to make silly mistakes because you most likely won't have time to go catch those mistakes later on. That I would not say is true. Obviously, like generally they get harder, but also it comes down to like personal preference sometimes, or like personal strengths and weaknesses. So the later problems, especially like the last 5 to 10 on AMC and the last probably 5 on Amy, um, they're like sometimes you can solve like problem 12 or 13, but 11 is like something that you're not comfortable in. So that's why like I say, and I think a lot of people say that like you should look at the later problems because sometimes you will find something that you're able to do. So this depends on like which competition, AMC or Amy or whatever you're doing. Okay, AMC. Um, I think if it's like one of the earlier problems, then sometimes it just means you're not seeing the trick and like you don't want to spend too much time on like racking your mind. But I think if you feel like it's solvable, many times you're not going to see the solution immediately. So, like, I guess for 15 to 20 especially, you might feel like 21 to 25 is not as much as a priority. So, like, I don't know. I don't think I would skip immediately. But yeah. I mean, usually I feel like that's not the case for AMC problems. If that happens and it's like super bashy, sometimes that's true for the later problems, but I don't know. I think that like it comes down to in the contest, like if you think that you have a good chance of doing it correctly, like if it's going to take a lot of computation, you also might get it wrong, but like you've already thought of the solution. So you just have to kind of weigh like what you think will be most beneficial for you. Yeah, so if you go on AOPS, they have a lot of mock AMCs and mock AMEs that are a lot of them linked to like forum posts by the people who made them. But yeah, so I've done a lot of those, and I think one of them that's like good quality is the CMC. It's like made by Eric Shin and other people. But yeah, like you said, mocks, CMC and then CIME. You can type it. Yeah, so mocks are like not always um accurate like level. And I think you can kind of tell when you do it, like the problems feel kind of weird or they're like too hard. But also, I think that like being exposed to different styles of writing is helpful. Like if, I don't know, the AMC problem writers change or something, like you'll be adapted to it, I guess. But yeah, I think like practice really can't hurt unless it's confusing you. So I don't know. I don't think that like most mocks are the best way to gauge what your score is going to be, but they're definitely good for practice.